Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Agatha All Along. Great series finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. So let's break it down. So we go back, we get a flashback to when Agatha gave birth to Nicholas, and it kind of makes sense, the whole Nicholas scratch of it all. It's because she's like, right, I didn't use a spell, I didn't say a chant, you were made from scratch. I was like, oh, I love that. But for whatever reason, I guess we'll never really know how they got together, because even Jen and Billy thought about it last episode, like, how did those two meet? And Jen was like, oh, probably over some corpses or something. But we're not even finding out how Agatha and Death met. But I guess it's kind of a thing of, it is what it is. But essentially, she was not coming for Agatha, she was coming for Nicholas, because it was supposed to be his time. But Agatha's like, please, no, just don't. But, Rio's like, fine, I will give you time. But it's like, how much time? And she'll never know. And so had to live those next, 6+ years being terrified of never knowing when Rio was going to show up again. But yeah, she does her thing of killing witches because that is her way to survive and keep going. Because I guess for her, it's like, I need to make sure I'm ready. Like, the stronger I am, the more likely I am to be able to protect Nicholas. But that is something she eventually comes to realize. Like, I can't protect my son. I don't have the means. I can do this, I can do that, but I can't protect you from what's coming, Rio, death. And I also can't fix you in the regards of he's sick. And she knew that would probably ultimately be his undoing. But I think she thought, if I gathered enough power, killing these witches is how I survive, and getting stronger and stronger is how I become powerful enough to properly protect you from everything. But even knowing how futile it is, because she thinks it won't work in the end. And also, Nicholas was asking her, like, why do you have to kill witches? Like, can't we be with them to survive? It's like, no, we kind of have to rely on ourselves. And also, if we kind of join the coven, they'd probably kill us because they'd find out, oh, I'm a serial killer. I mean, it's also sad, too, because she would also use Nicholas as bait to draw in witches for her to murder, which is also like, oh, making him your accomplice, too. It's kind of disgusting. But it's like, right, all we have in this world is each other. And we find out they together. It started with Nicholas, but it's Nicholas and Agatha who constructed the Witch's Road ballad. Because we know that, Lorna created the most popular version of it. She did the most popular rendition of it. But I never thought we'd actually find out, where it started. And especially when you find... once again, there's certain things where I'm like, right, we found out last episode the Witch's Road never existed. So it is interesting to think, it never crossed my mind last episode to be... So if it never existed, it never crossed my mind. I'm glad we got this answer, because I never thought that would be... It's like, say, even last episode, that never crossed my mind. I think that's an important thing to know. If the road never existed, then how... And it's like Agatha and her son came up with the ballad. We see them working on it bit by bit, coming up with tunes for it, to the point, he's putting on a little performance, and he's supposed to be using this to draw witches in, but he didn't want to. He's like, don't worry, Mom, we'll kill more witches tomorrow. And they ended up going to sleep, and sadly, Nicholas died in his sleep. That's why Agatha's pissed at her, because it's like, you did this, you took my son from me. We had our connection, and it's still a thing of, I think, despite our love, you still came and took my son away from me. But it's still the thing of, love or not, there's still a balance to everything. And for her, it's like, I have to see this through. That's just the natural course of things. Life and death, it goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And it's like, I gave you as much time as I could. That's why she was saying special treatment. She's like, special treatment. It's like, the special treatment is, you gave me my son extra years and then just took him away from me in the middle of the night. You didn't have the decency to come to me first and let me know. You came when I was asleep, and it's like, maybe in her own way, Rio thought that was the most comforting way, where it's like, so you don't see it coming. That's the most merciful way I can go about it. But I think that just made Agatha resent her more, and that in itself made Agatha retreat into herself, and she became more and more of a worse person because of it. Because it's like all she had to live for, and because she was just so heartbroken and angry that witches approached her hearing the ballad. It's like, oh, rumors about the witch's road. So she didn't initially spread that. It was already spreading because the song went, people heard the song and they started going like, oh, is there a witch's road? And it started resonating. Like someone came up with that and ran with it. And Agatha just fed into it. She built coven after coven after coven just to kill them. And immediately this is happening. You're like, because the road isn't real, that's what and we see she's literally had the same playbook every time. You're like, holy crap, that's crazy. Like, now you're like, in episode 2 when she was talking mad shit trying to get them to blast her, she was acting like, oh my god, it didn't work, you're failures of witches. It's like, because she didn't know it was going to actually work this time, because it never did, because it was always a lie. It was the same lie, which is also, once again, making your son unaccomplished. You used the thing that you and your son concocted together to kill more witches, because it was the only thing she could use to fill the void in her heart. It's like, I'm going to survive, I'm going to keep going, I'm not going to let losing Nicholas hold me back, like drag me. I'm gonna hold him close to me with this piece of hair in my locket, but I'm not stopping. I'm just gonna keep going and going. And we see throughout ages her doing this different times and decades and stuff until we get to episode 2, and she's like, yeah, our name Will Rich is here, and then she sees the road. She's like, what the fuck? And she touches it, and then in that moment she looks at Teen. It's like, maybe in that moment is when she's like, being able to make stuff alter reality this way, it's the power of the Scarlet Witch. In that moment, I think it's like that's probably when she really started being like, I thought you were interesting before. You are Wanda's son, aren't you? Like, I think that's when it finally clicked in her mind. And she kind of smiles because she's like, now this could be interesting. Because it also adds interesting, not retconning, but now it also adds layers to why she came looking for Wanda because she was like, ooh, this intriguing thing has happened, let me play along, which has always been her thing of like, oh, there's this thing going on, let me play along into Wanda's whole situation. Oh, let me play into this lie about the witch's robe. But it's like, because that's always been her MO. She came to Westview for the purposes of stealing Wanda's powers. That was kind of clear in WandaVision, but it adds even more layers and context to it. I don't know if she had the plan of, hey, I'm going to start a coven with Wanda and do the same thing. But it's like, no, I think she was just going to try and like zap her powers and sap them if she could. That was always just going to be the end result. Once again, it's that retroactive retconning to some extent where you're like, you're not retconning anything, you're just adding more context to it. And it's like, well, they didn't have this idea back then when they introduced the whole Agatha and the whole WandaVision of it all. So, I don't know, it adds an interesting layer to everything. And what's also interesting is now, like, Agatha's a ghost now and she's still hanging around. Also, different outfit, and she has the gray hair, which is meant to look more like how the character looks in the comics. Because, like, obviously, because the character is older than what Catherine Hahn is. Like, she is like a grandmother, or like, she is an much older lady in the comics. So, like, Catherine Hahn, is playing a younger version of the character. So to make her kind of more like the character, you make her like that. Like I said, you gave her a new outfit. Yeah, it's not the same outfit she's typically had either. But she talks to Billy about everything. It's like, no, she's like, the road never existed. It was all a lie until you made it one. And he's like, I made the road. And this is the thing of, I didn't even think about the grander context of what it meant that he made the road. He's like, holy shit, I killed everyone. I was like, oh, I didn't think about that last episode. That is heartbreaking to have that on your conscience of, yeah, you kind of sadly followed your mom's footsteps. In her sadness and in her grief, she did something terrible. Same thing for Billy. It's like, I created the road. I didn't know I didn't do that intentionally. Wanda's situation, she was grief-stricken about and trying to escape her pain from what happened to Vision, that she, did what she did to the town. It's not to the same large scale, but even to a smaller scale, there's also the thing of like, well, to be fair, William was already dead, but you kind of hijacked his life. The thing I was actually really surprised about, like, that there was nothing with Billy's boyfriend. Like, once again, the black heart of it all made me go like, was that just kind of a wink and nod? I felt like there was going to be more to that, and like there might be a reveal about him. Never was. So I guess he's just his boyfriend. But either way, the guilt of, I'm responsible for everyone's death. It's like Alice and Agatha's like, well, to be fair, I killed Alice. It's like, Lillian, she made that choice herself. Mrs. Davis, who? I was like, you're still an asshole. It's like, oh, right, the gardening lady. But she says, at the end of the day, you did save a life, and that life is Jen. Not only did Jen survive the road, she also has her powers back. So there was new life. She kind of has a life because, like, right, you helped her, you know, unlock her powers and everything, and now she kind of is able to live again. She's kind of been stuck in stasis for so long in a lot of ways, and now she can kind of move on with her life. So there is some good from that, but it's still the thing of, I killed so many people. But Agatha's always had the perspective of, you did what you had to survive. Like, don't ever let that hold you down. Because she even says, like, right, I planned on killing every single one of you. And that pissed Billy off to the point he went back to Agatha's place and he drew a pentagram and he was going to try and banish her spirit. Because it's like, right, you are a terrible person. Like, this is the least, like, you shouldn't be here. Because no one else is a ghost. Everyone else has found their way to death. Which I'm like, I'm also super surprised by that. Because I was like, wow, Jen's the only one that survived. Everyone else is dead. Like, they're dead. I was like, that's interesting. Because I was so certain, like, oh, we're going to undo this. It's like, no, everyone is dead. Everyone died. Everyone that died, and they're dead. And now Billy has to live with that of, like, I am responsible for that. And so he was going to, like, banish Agatha, but she's like, no, you can't do that. He's like, I'm the one that broke that spell. And she's like, right, you think you did, but no, you loosened it. And she was kind of getting nervous, being like, no. And she smacks the locket out of his hand, because for her, it's like, I can't face him. After everything she's done, these centuries of killing and doing terrible stuff, it was once again her way of filling the void in her heart that she could not face her son after all that she's done. And once again, kind of bringing up the point of, like, right, it's like, he's like, well, you know, he'd forgive you for what you've done. And she's like, in those moments, she's like, you saying stuff like that makes me think, like, that's why she connected so much with the team, why she cared for him. Because I brought this up last episode, it's because if her son was still around, she'd hope he'd be like Billy. She think there'd be, like, she looks at Billy, and that's why it's like, once again, you're taking another kid, someone else, another mother's child down the road to kind of fill the void of your child being gone, and, you know, not being able to bring him back, but also, like, you're too scared to move on because you don't want to face him. It's like, how can I face him when I've done all that I've done? But it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, she's picking up this ghost thing pretty quickly, but it's also like, you and I make a good team. And he's like, you know, Coven too. And she's like, I have a tendency to kill my Coven. He's like, me too. I was like, Jesus, that is the irony behind that you two actually make quite the pair. And so where the door is in her basement, Billy, like, hardens it and turns the pentagram to stone, and he engraves Sharon, Alice, and Lilia's names. And it's like, right, never forget his Coven. So the two of them are going to go off together to look for Tommy. It's like, right, she can be his spirit guide, because it's like the two of them have always had this really cantankerous, very toxic relationship. He even talked about sending her to Rio into her toxic embrace. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, we make quite the interesting pair that it's like, because I think it is that thing of, Agatha's not all bad, Billy's not all good. We've both done good, but we've also done bad. And it's kind of a thing, I think, with Billy being like, kind of, yes, Agatha has done a lot of bad, but how can I really judge, considering my biological mom did a lot of bad. I've done bad. You know, once again, whether my intentions were there or not, I still did what I did. So the question then becomes, will Billy go down the route of the Scarlet Witch? You know, once again, you don't have to like it, but it is MCU canon of Doctor Strange. I know a lot of people did not like Multiverse of Madness of what it did to Wanda's story. I know even Elizabeth Olsen wasn't a fan of how things kind of played out. I get it, but it is what it is. So the question then becomes, will Billy follow even more so on his mother's tracks of, like, yeah, in your need to get your brother, which he is out there somewhere, you just don't know where. But now this two, with Agatha as a guide, kind of go out there to look for Tommy. And I guess it's almost like Agatha being able to take this afterlife of hers to do some good, you know? And it's going to be interesting to see what the future might hold for these characters. It's also interesting, too, because, like, this is her kind of fulfilling the role. Because they wink and nod to it with her kind of being a pseudo babysitter. in WandaVision, but this is the role that she plays in the comics. If I remember correctly, during WandaVision, people were like, "Oh yeah, Agatha kind of looked over Billy and Tommy like as a mentor type of mother-ish figure." So I think she's kind of filling that role now. So it had been rumored for a while, but I think it is official now that there is going to be a Vision series in the making. So I don't know if this will be continued in that regard or what. When the next time we could see this more witchy side of the MCU kick in, and don't know what. Like, because I know there's been rumors about maybe there's like a Wiccan show or something may get greenlit now. Maybe not. Like I said, maybe some of this story will get folded into the Vision stuff. It's already something in the works, so might as well fold it in, because it's like, right, what has White Papa been up to in the grand scheme of things? Because Wiccan isn't Billy isn't looking for him. It's like, how do you balance that with, like, right, you have William's parents to kind of come home to as well. So some very, very fascinating developments. Also, once again, Jen's out there in the world. When will we see her again? Obviously, a lot of the MCU is in flux, because it's like, we're all roads towards Secret Wars, and we don't know how much of this will play in the Secret Wars, where they'll stay in its own little corner and eventually get tapped into post-Secret Wars. All that has to be kind of thought about. There's been the rumors about a Wanda movie, potentially, thoughts about it, Doctor Strange 3, but that deals with like incursions, and that's related to the multiverse and Secret Wars. So would that even tackle any of this stuff? So there's just so many threads out there. So it's like, would this be a priority right now? Do you want to kind of finish up the multiverse arc, and then you can circle back to some of these more smaller stories in whatever capacity going forward? I don't know. We'll see. But hopefully this isn't the last we see. Hope we get to see Catherine Hahn more. Hope we get to see Joe Locke more. And see like what this duo is up to. I'm curious to see, because there has been talks about, like, I think the rumor currently is that the Young Avengers, well, there's been talks of, will they get their own movie? Will they get a TV show? Obviously, that was set up at the end of the Marvels, but we also don't know, because there was also another rumor that apparently it's going to be a subplot of Doomsday will be the Young Avengers. So I don't know. So we could also see like Billy at that time. Like, once again, it just depends on how it all shapes up and shapes out, so. But I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Once again, if you didn't, that's perfectly okay. I'm not going to shit on you being like, oh my god, how could you not? This show isn't I know a lot of people have to defend themselves, be like, yeah, this show just wasn't for me. I'm like, and that's okay. I think that's perfectly fine. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. The show's up my alley. If you know me, I love some witch stuff. I love me some Charmed. I like the chilling adventures of Sabrina. So like supernatural witchy stuff is always like, supernatural is kind of like my favorite genre. So it's like, this was always going to be my cup of tea, and it's just fun, but it also had a nice darkness to it, kind of tonally speaking, very much like a there's a lot of Charmed elements to it, but it also definitely gives me chilling of adventures of Sabrina elements to it as well. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed this ride. Like I said, I hope we get to see some of the creative team behind this, as well as some of the actors. Like I said, Catherine Hahn, Joe Locke, Sashira Zamato, who played Jen. Obviously Rio, like we got our canon death. So it's actually interesting when you think about it, because I wonder if like they kind of gave Agatha the Rio, well, because like obviously like in the comics, like Thanos is like need to impress Death is what instituted like the Infinity Gauntlet situation, because he wanted to impress Death. If I remember correctly, isn't there a love triangle between Thanos, Death, and Deadpool? Because like isn't like Death super into Deadpool? So I wonder if that's something they'd ever play with going forward or not. That'd be kind of neat. I don't know. But either way, like I'm going on my tangents. But yeah, like everyone involved, I hope, I wish them the best in their future endeavors, whether it's MCU related or not. But I do hope a lot, like I said, the creative team and a lot of the cast gets to come, and writers get to come back for something in the future related to these characters, or maybe something else. But involving these characters would be nice. So. But yeah, to everyone involved in the project, thank you so much for bringing another wonderful series to me and to everyone. Like I said, whether people were on the ride for it or not. So that's where I'm currently standing with all of this. So, but I've rambled on enough. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.